Okay, so your book is open to 356. This is lesson 12.6, and we're going to be looking at some story problems today. And remember your basic steps when you're looking at a story problem. There's 5 of them. You've been reviewing them probably since 2nd grade. But number 1, you need to be able to identify that question. So you might have a lot of information provided. You got to look for that question mark and make sure you're understanding exactly what is the question. Okay, make sure you're answering it. So identify your question and understand it. And then you need to look for data, analyze your data. What numbers have you been given? What numbers are you going to be using? What do they represent? So make sure you know where that data is, analyze it, know what you're going to be using. Then you need to plan a strategy depending on what clues you've been given. If they're asking for the difference, you know you're probably going to be subtracting. If they ask you for a word like total, you know you're going to be adding, okay? These are some basic things that you've known for a long, long time now, but you need to plan a strategy. What operation modem are you going to be using? That's number 3, okay? Then number 4 is just go ahead and solve. You know, once you've planned your strategy, go ahead and solve. And then finally, that 5th step is one that a lot of people oftentimes skip, and they shouldn't, okay? That is to evaluate your answer. Make sure that the answer that you got makes sense. Make sure that the answer that you got answers the question. Make sure that the answer that you got includes some sort of label. If your answer is 25, is it 25 what? Inches? Donuts? You know, what is it? Okay, so make sure you include that label as well. So as you begin today, you're going to find that you're going to be working with temperatures, and they're going to ask you oftentimes for the differences in temperature. So there you're going to be subtracting oftentimes. They're also going to ask you to find some time differences, and that's where it could get a little bit tricky. So let's say I'll do one example on the board for us, okay? Let's say, for example, they say that a train is leaving a station at 6:08 a.m. and it's getting into the next station at 7:15. And you want to know how much time is going to pass between the 2 stations. Just make sure you understand that this is elapsed time, and you're simply not adding these 2 times, or you're not subtracting these 2 times, but you need to be thinking about that clock and the face of a clock when you look at these. So we look at this and we say we're traveling from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So 6:08 to 7:08 would be an hour right there. And then we need to add from 8 to 15 would be some extra minutes there, right? So here we're going to have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We're actually going to have an hour and 7 minutes that have passed by the time the train enters the next station. So I'm just going to forewarn you to be a little bit careful here when you're talking about elapsed time. Make sure that you're remembering that we're talking about the face of a clock, and if you need to, imagine that clock and the hour hands of that clock traveling from one hour to the next. It can get a little tricky when you're having to take these minutes into account, all right? You're going to be completing page 357 in your textbook today, and at some point or another we'll be taking a peek at it. We'll let you know how we're going to do that. For today, we're going to ask you to record them in the book for us. And if you have any difficulty, I want to remind you too that the Google Classroom is open from 11 to 12 and 1 to 2 every single day of the week, and that is always listed in your lesson plans. All right? All right, guys, good luck with this. Ciao.